Hello Star Wars fans and welcome to another video. So for the past couple of weeks I've been reading and reviewing the absolutely stellar Young Jedi Knights series, and just a few days ago I uploaded my review of the last few books, so today I'm going to rank all 14 Young Jedi Knights books from worst to best. So without further ado, let's rank and review. So coming in last place is Book 3, The Lost Ones. This book isn't at all a bad book, it's just extremely boring to me, which is a testament to the quality of the overall series. This one introduces Zek, who I wasn't a big fan of early on, but the biggest issue I have with this book is the setting. I absolutely hate the way the Coruscant underworld is portrayed in these Bantam-era books, including this, the Jedi Academy trilogy, and the Corellian trilogy. There's no clubs, there's no bars, no nightlife, it's just abandoned buildings, alleys, walkways, and very few people are living there. Again, this book isn't bad, it's just boring, so I'm going to give it a 76%. Moving on from that, at number 13 we have Book 9, Delusions of Grandeur. This is the third book of the Diversity Alliance arc, and one of my biggest problems with that arc and this book specifically is that it focuses too much on the plot progression and not enough on specific scenes and characters, which makes this book super forgettable. What I do remember is that this book brings back Dengar, as well as IG-88, and we also have the return of Lusa from the Crystal Star. Other than that, I remember very little past the climactic encounter with Dengar on Mechas 3. Because of how forgettable it is, I'm going to give this book a 76% as well. Next, at number 12, we have, unfortunately, the series finale, Book 14, Crisis at Crystal Reef. Now at this point, all of the books on this list are super fun. This book is no exception. Visiting Kessel and Mon Calamari was fun, and this book also brought back both Nien Nunb and Silgal, which was great. But other than that, this book was a super disappointing finale. The stakes were far too low and the scale was far too small, and development for Anya takes precedence over development of the other kids. Even though I enjoyed this book, it didn't do its job as a finale very well, so I'm going to give this book a 77%. Coming in at number 11 is Book 5, Darkest Night. This book catalogs the attack on Kashyyyk by the Shadow Academy, led by Zek himself. I've always loved Kashyyyk as a planet, however its portrayal as a computer manufacturing hub in this book is questionable. Something I really loved about Kashyyyk in this book, however, was the underworld, or the Shadowlands. That entire section of the book was super entertaining. What holds this book back from a higher spot, however, is Zek, who is an extremely annoying villain in this book. I said earlier that I wasn't a big fan of Zek in these earlier books, and that holds true here. Overall, this one isn't bad, it's got some great action and some decent character work, but there's some elements that hold it back, so I'm going to give it a 78%. At number 10 is Book 8, Diversity Alliance. This is the second book of the titular arc, and it started the trend of prioritizing plot progression over memorable individual books. However, this one was a lot of fun, and most of that is due to the really cool planets we visit. I don't know why, but I really enjoyed the atmosphere of Kawar and Gamelin, specifically Kawar. The desolate world with its ancient ruins had a very empty and eerie feel to it that kept me on edge the whole time, and that made the book very enjoyable to read. This book introduced us to Loi's friend Rabba, and was the first book to include IG-88. It also had some great interactions between Zek and Boba Fett as they explored a ghost town on Gamelin. This one was pretty fun, so I'm going to give it a 79%. Next, at number 9, we have Book 7, Shards of Alderaan, and this one was a fun start to the Diversity Alliance arc. This one is more of a standalone adventure of the week type of book, which I enjoyed, and this one had a lot of fun elements to it. We had the kids visiting the Alderaan asteroid field, we had the inclusion of Boba Fett into the series for the first time, we had Zek returning to his homeworld of Nth. Overall, this one's pretty good, and I'm going to give it a 79%. Next, at number 8, we have Book 13, Trouble on Cloud City. This book takes place on Bespin as the kids help Lando test out his new amusement park, but after Lando's business partner is killed, they all take part in the investigation. This one was a lot of fun, but it suffers from the same issues I had with the Black Sun trilogy as a whole, which includes a lack of plot progression and especially a lack of character development. Again, Anya takes center stage from the Jedi Knights themselves. It's a fun book with some very important issues, so I'm going to give it a 79%. And at number 7, we have Book 12, Return to Ord Mantell. This one is the first book in the Black Sun trilogy and is, in my opinion, the best. Although it suffers from the same issues as the other two, including slow plot progression and a lack of character development, this one was a lot of fun. This book spends a lot more time on Anubis than Ord Mantell, which I like, because Anubis is a much more interesting planet in my opinion. Overall, this one is a lot of fun, and actually much more mature than other books in the series, so I'm going to give it an 80%. Coming in at number 6 is Book 2, Shadow Academy. This is the book that formally introduces us to the Shadow Academy, Brachus, Tamith Kai, and a lot of the other elements that come into play during the Shadow Academy arc. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Although the plotline was a bit thin and unoriginal, I enjoyed seeing the kids being brought to the Shadow Academy and trained to be Dark Jedi. I thought Brachus was an interesting villain, and I enjoyed Luke and Tenel Ka's side story, so I'm going to give this book an 80%. Heading into the top 5, we have Book 10, Jedi Bounty, and in this one, the kids travel into the belly of the beast as they go to Ryloth to rescue Loie. This one is your classic infiltration plotline done in a really fun way. The best part of this book, though, is Ryloth itself. As they make their escape, the kids are forced into the harsh climate of the planet, one side scorched by the unrelenting heat of the sun, the other side dark and freezing cold. And this section of the book was just so much fun. Overall, this book had some very high stakes and some even higher temperatures, so I'm going to give it an 81%. Next up at number 4, we have Book 6, Jedi Under Siege, the explosive finale to the Shadow Academy arc. This book was non-stop action from beginning to end, as the entire book details the Second Imperium's attack on the Jedi Praxium on Yavin 4. The way this book brings the arc to an end was extremely satisfying, as character arcs conclude and plot threads are tied up. Even though, in reality, this book doesn't have much of a plot, it was a lot of fun, so I'm going to give it an 82%. Just cracking the top 3 is Book 11, The Emperor's Plague, the grand finale of the Diversity Alliance arc. Much like Jedi Under Siege, this book acts as an extremely satisfying conclusion to this arc's characters and stories. I don't have much to say about this one other than the fact that it does its job remarkably well. I'm going to give this book an 84%. Coming in second place is Book 4, Lightsabers, which is probably the most narratively satisfying book of the entire series, as Tenel Ka loses her arm and goes through a journey of accepting her handicap as well as her joined Hapan Dathomirian heritage. This one was such a good book for Tenel Ka's character and had some great action as well. And it was great that the kids finally had their own lightsabers, which makes the action much more interesting. Overall, this book was great and is probably objectively the best of the series, so I'm going to give it an 84%. And finally, at number 1 is my personal favorite, Book 1, Heirs of the Force. Something about this book is just very special for me. Maybe it's the simplicity, it's just a bunch of kids journeying into the jungle, cracking jokes, and working on a crashed TIE fighter. It has a certain innocence that's super endearing for me. It also does a great job of introducing the characters and the series as a whole, old and new. I love its characterizations of Jacen and Jaina, I love both Tenel Ka and Loie, and Quarrel is a fun antagonist, and I especially love Luke's portrayal in this one as well. Probably the biggest reason this one resonated so much with me is that I just love Yavin 4 as a setting so much, and this book takes place entirely on Yavin 4. Overall, it's just such a fun introduction to the series, so I'm going to give it an 85%. So that is my ranking of all 14 Young Jedi Knights books. This series as a whole was fantastic, especially since they're aimed at a younger audience. The stories are so extremely fun, and the characters especially are so lovable. I'd recommend anybody, whether you're a kid, a teenager, or an adult, read these books. At their worst, they're harmless fun, and at their best, they're narratively compelling adventures with fun stories and great characters. So with all that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed my ranking of the Young Jedi Knights series. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode of Journey into Legends, where I'll be reviewing the 4-issue comic series, River of Chaos. See ya.